Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We're here to take your reading list, and today it is a demanding one, and just give you that strategic shortcut to what really matters.
And why it matters.
Exactly. So today we are immersing ourselves in a really comprehensive roadmap for organizational transformation. It's specifically within a faith context. Our sources are Timidayo Adwol's works, A Blueprint for Authentic Church Growth, and its companion, If You Want Your Church to Grow in God's Way.
And this is an extraordinary deep dive, I think, because Adolz isn't just offering, a list of management tactics. Not at all.
No.
He's presenting 7 distinct, non-negotiable recommendations, and they are incredibly challenging. This is really a mandate for authentic growth.
Right. Authentic is the key word.
It is. And the sources make it very clear that this requires a radical and, frankly, often painful shift in priorities for organizations that have maybe become a bit complacent.
We're just focused inward. Exactly. Our mission today is to unpack every single element of this rigorous roadmap. It's designed for growth in what Ubol himself calls God's way.
And the scope here is, well, it's total. This blueprint cuts across every single aspect of how an organization operates.
Everyone.
The theological core, how finances get managed, where you focus your generational energy, and this is the part a lot of places skip: crucial systemic ethical reforms.
It's not a list of tips. It's a systemic overhaul.
Totally. So to really grasp the weight of this, we have to start where he starts, right at the root, the spiritual foundation itself. Okay, let's unpack this blueprint.
That foundation is laid out so powerfully in point 1, and it immediately sets the bar incredibly high. It's a 3-part requirement that really dictates the whole spiritual climate of the organization.
Exactly. So point 1 for this authentic growth is a combined focus on 3 necessary elements. The first 2 really set the tone for spiritual discipline.
Right. You've got the directive to teach the whole Bible, and then the instruction to invest time in corporate prayers. That establishes a baseline of robust doctrine and communal discipline. It makes sense.
It does. It absolutely does. But then we hit the third element of point 1, and this is the immediate friction point for a lot of people. It's the mandate to deal with demonic activities.
Right.
This is where Adwol really elevates spiritual integrity above, say, simple administration. For a general audience, this might sound highly niche, or even esoteric.
A little bit, yeah.
But in the context of this blueprint, Adwol sees this as just necessary spiritual housekeeping.
Okay, so tell us more about that leap. Why is confronting spiritual opposition placed right alongside teaching and prayer as a foundational requirement for growth?
What's so fascinating here is that Adwol doesn't treat this like some optional ritual or, a peripheral activity.
It's not a side quest.
Not at all. He embeds it as foundational work because, from the source's perspective, if the organization is distracted or oppressed or internally compromised by these spiritual challenges, then all your external growth efforts they're fundamentally undermined.
Oh.
It moves the discussion from are our finances good to is our spiritual house in order. It demands a clarity of focus and the removal of spiritual obstacles. And this confrontation is seen as mandatory before authentic growth can even begin.
That immediately changes the conversation. It's not just about operational management anymore. It's about genuine spiritual integrity, demanding authenticity from the ground up.
From the very ground up.
If that foundation's weak, the whole structure is compromised.
Okay.
So moving past that initial spiritual hurdle, this is where the blueprint gets extremely tactical. It focuses on environment shifts. Where should the organization's energy and money actually go?
And the redirection starts really critically with the next generation. That's point 2. And Adwol issues a powerful warning here that is just rooted in self-preservation.
It's not just a suggestion. It's an urgent warning about nurturing youth. The source is starkly clear. Listen to the concerns of youths. If you don't, there may be no church tomorrow.
Wow.
I mean, that is a survival threat tied directly to how you engage with young people right now. It means youth engagement isn't a side project. It's a core strategy for organizational continuity.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, Adwol is pointing out a structural failure that so many established institutions face.
Which is?
It's the tendency for older leadership to just dismiss or ignore the evolving needs and critiques of the younger demographic.
Right, we've always done it this way.
Exactly that. The source implies that listening means actual inclusion, shifting power dynamics, and addressing that specific relevance crisis that young people often feel. The urgency, no church tomorrow, is a powerful way to force leadership to act, now.
That structural failure flows perfectly into point 3, which is the financial redirection. This might be the most powerful juxtaposition in the whole blueprint. It outlines resource management priorities.
I agree.
Raise more men, build less mansions. I mean, that's a profound statement about resource allocation that challenges centuries of institutional practice.
It forces a confrontation with what we even consider institutional wealth. You know, we're talking about organizations that might spend decades accumulating land, constructing these massive, elaborate, permanent physical structures, the mansions.
And Adewale just says, reprioritize all of that capital investment.
Completely.
It's a powerful slogan, raise more men, build less mansions. But, practically, how does he address the need for infrastructure? I mean, organizations do need space to gather.
Sure.
Does he give any metrics for what's too much building? And what about the argument that often, beautiful architecture can signal stability and attract those younger demographics?
He doesn't give you, specific square footage metrics, no. But the theological rationale he provides is completely unambiguous.
Yeah.
And that serves as the internal metric.
Which is?
Jesus is not coming for earthly mansions.
Yeah.
This just shifts the entire value system. The focus is on the kingdom, not the temporal real estate portfolio. It demands that resources that were previously earmarked for elaborate building projects have to be aggressively redirected.
Into what?
Into leadership development, education, staffing, pastoral care, the men who carry the mission forward.
So Adewale is demanding a radical shift from valuing visible assets like concrete and glass to valuing invisible assets like skilled, dedicated, trained human leadership.
Structures to disciples, yeah.
And that then dictates how internal operations must run. So let's discuss that operational shift he requires, moving from, say, internal comfort to an external mission.
This is where resources that might traditionally just be siloed toward internal maintenance or, internal programmatic comfort are aggressively pushed outward.
Exactly. Point 4 addresses the evangelism priority, and it offers another one of those powerful contrasts. Invest more in evangelism than in worship services.
That's a huge shift.
It's huge. Many organizations dedicate the vast majority of their weekly resources, time, people, budget, to just optimizing the Sunday experience.
This instruction demands a fundamental rebalancing of the budget. Adewale isn't saying neglect worship, not at all, but he's making the external outreach mission the primary resource sink.
So more money, more time.
More personnel time, more strategic thinking has to go into reaching non-members, running community programs, engaging mission work, rather than just, perfecting the internal gathering. It elevates the outreach function above the maintenance function.
But that aggressive outward push has to be matched by a strong internal safety net, right? And that's point 5, focusing on member welfare. This shifts the focus to internal community health. Pay more attention to family life and welfare of church members.
And this point is just critical for sustainability. Adewale recognizes that the congregation is only as strong as its weakest link, especially its families.
So it's the well-being of the community.
The domestic and personal well-being is a cornerstone of growth. If people are struggling financially or relationally or at home, they can't effectively participate in the aggressive evangelism that point 4 demands.
What's fascinating here is just the sheer necessity of this balanced approach. You have this demanding outward push investing in evangelism matched by an equally strong, compassionate internal support system.
The focus on welfare and family life.
Right. If you just focus on evangelism, you burn people out. If you just focus on welfare, you become insular. Adewale is demanding the structural strength you get from integrating both.
It creates a self-sustaining loop. Internally healthy members are then equipped to engage externally, and that holistic view sets us up for the final 2 points.
Which are arguably the most challenging.
Absolutely, because they address internal structural integrity and accountability. This is the ethical cleanup that leadership often finds so difficult to implement.
The moment of truth for internal staffing. Okay, let's start with point 6, personnel standards. This outlines a clear, non-negotiable instruction regarding leadership. Stop using men who are neither called nor made.
That phrase, neither called nor made, is so crucial here. Adewale is speaking directly to the endemic problem of using personnel, whether they're volunteers, staff, or high-level leaders, based on convenience.
Or family connections.
Or family connections, or the simple fact that they're available rather than their genuine spiritual qualification, their character, or their gifting.
So it's not just about a formal training degree. It's about spiritual authenticity and inherent fitness for the role.
Exactly. It's a profound emphasis on quality control and spiritual authenticity at the highest level. It demands integrity in leadership selection.
It forces an internal audit.
It does. It forces the organization to ask,
Yeah.
are we using these people because they're genuinely equipped for the mission, or because, we owe them a favor, or they just fill a slot?
And discontinuing that requires a willingness to restructure and potentially upset some existing power dynamics.
A huge willingness.
Which leads directly to point 7. This is the final and I think most critical ethical requirement. It forces the organization to look backwards to move forward. The source says, do necessary congregational restitutions to those the church has deliberately or unintentionally offended.
An organizational requirement for ethical repair.
Yeah.
This is monumental. When we talk about restitution in this context, Adwole is demanding that the institution publicly and actively acknowledge past wrongs, sins committed by leadership, offenses against members, hurts from systemic policy failures.
So what does that look like practically for a major organization? Is it just a public apology, or does the source imply something more material?
Well, restitution, by its very nature, often involves more than just words. It can mean a public apology to clear someone's reputation, sure.
But it could also mean...
It could also involve making financial amends, reinstating someone who was unjustly dismissed, or changing a policy that caused harm. The key word is necessary.
Right.
Adwole makes it very clear that unacknowledged institutional hurt just poisons the well. It completely destroys credibility. You cannot achieve authentic growth if you are standing on a foundation of unresolved ethical debt.
So if we connect this back to the very beginning, point 7 reveals that authentic growth is fundamentally dependent on ethical repair. It demands accountability for past offenses, whether they were intentional or accidental. It elevates ethical accountability right up there with doctrine and prayer. So when we put all 7 points together, what does this all mean for an organization trying to follow this blueprint?
It means that true sustainable growth, according to Temadayo Adwole, is not found in marketing or technology or just hiring more staff. It is demanding, difficult work built on 3 uncompromising pillars.
Oh, hey, what are they?
First, spiritual intensity. You start with foundational integrity, teaching the whole counsel, intense prayer, and that spiritual cleanup. Second, deep investment in people. You prioritize the youth, you prioritize men over mansions, and you prioritize member welfare.
And the third?
And finally, radical ethical cleanup, ensuring genuine integrity in leadership selection and that proactive, mandated process of making amends for past organizational offenses.
It really is a complete system overhaul, one that puts integrity and people before image and property. And that requirement for ethical correction in point 7 is what really lingers with me. If authentic growth hinges on making amends, on acknowledging deep-seated hurts, how does this principle of necessary congregational restitutions, this idea that you must repair your past to grow your future, how does that apply to the long-term health and credibility of any institution?
A nonprofit, a corporation.
A corporation, a government, any institution that seeks public trust and its genuine sustainable growth. And that is an important question for you to explore on your own.
A truly challenging mission statement for any leader out there.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into Adwole's blueprint. Use this distilled knowledge wisely, and we'll catch you next time.